If your life doesn't match your dreams, it's not because you're not capable, it's because your standards are too low. You don't get what you desire, you get what you demand. And until you raise your standards, your life will stay exactly where it is. We were never created to live beneath our potential, but too many of us are tolerating mediocrity, calling it humility. Listen, your life rises or falls to the level of your standards. If you want to experience transformation, breakthrough, and purpose-driven power, it's time to challenge what you've been willing to accept. In this video, we're going to expose the power of raised standards. Your standards are the blueprint of your destiny. They are not decorations you wear on Sundays. They are the laws that govern the level of life you will live every single day. God, in His infinite wisdom, created you with purpose, with power, with potential, but He also gave you the divine responsibility of choice. That choice is what separates those who walk in greatness from those who settle for survival. Standards are not optional. They are the silent architects of your future. What you tolerate becomes what you teach others to expect from you. What you accept becomes the foundation of your tomorrow. If your standards are low, your results will never be high. You cannot live a life of excellence while making peace with mediocrity. You cannot walk in divine destiny while negotiating with dysfunction. When you accept small thinking, you limit a limitless God. He never asked you to shrink to fit your surroundings. He called you to stretch and shift the atmosphere around you. But when your standards are loose, your boundaries become blurry. And when your boundaries are blurry, your life becomes chaotic. You begin to allow things that violate your values. You begin to excuse behaviors that drain your purpose. And slowly, without realizing it, you start living beneath your design. Let me be clear, your environment is not stronger than your standard, but if your standard is weak, your environment will dominate your destiny. You've got to make a decision. Will you lead your life, or will you let it be led by circumstance? You cannot blame fate for what your framework allows. You cannot cry over consequences you continually invite. If you allow disrespect, you will be disrespected. If you allow procrastination, you will reap delay. If you allow compromise, you will miss your calling. God cannot elevate what you are unwilling to separate from. And often what's holding your life back is not the devil, it's your decision. It's the silent agreements you've made with mediocrity. It's the quiet compromises that keep you comfortable but powerless. The moment you raise your standards, you send a signal to heaven that you are ready for more. You say to God, I am ready to steward what you've prepared for me. Stop living like life is happening to you and start understanding that your standards are happening through you. They are either creating structure or opening the door to struggle. They are either preparing the way for elevation or paving the path to frustration. And here's the truth. Until you change what you're willing to tolerate, you will never experience transformation. Destiny doesn't respond to dreams. It responds to decisions. So decide today. Draw the line. Raise the bar. Don't wait for the world to change around you. Change the standard within you. Because your future doesn't need more chances. It needs stronger choices. And it all begins with your standard. You don't get what you want, you get what you are willing to enforce. That is a law of life, a principle that governs success, fulfillment, and divine alignment. Wanting something is not enough. Wanting change, wanting growth, wanting breakthrough, it all sounds good, it all feels good, but none of it means anything without the willingness to enforce the standards that produce it. Desire is the starting point, but discipline is the engine. And too many people live their entire lives stuck between a prayer and a pattern. They cry out for breakthrough, but they won't break away from the behaviors and boundaries that keep them bound. That's deception. Desire without discipline is deception, because it gives you the illusion of progress while you're stuck in the same cycle year after year. You can't keep asking God for new blessings while living with old behaviors. If you want to see a different outcome, you've got to enforce a different order. Not just publicly, but privately. Not just in your words, but in your walk. You must hold yourself accountable to the vision you claim to carry. You must be willing to look at your life and confront every place where your actions don't reflect your assignment. Are your habits aligned with your hopes? Are your routines reinforcing your revelation? If not, you're not lacking opportunity, you're lacking enforcement. You're not stuck because of the enemy, you're stuck because of your standards. Every area of your life that is out of control is simply an area where a higher standard hasn't been enforced. Your health, your time, your money, your relationships, your spiritual growth, they all respond to what you enforce, not what you intend. You can have the right goals, but the wrong guardrails. You can have the right dream, but live in the wrong discipline. And here's the truth. Nobody enforces your standard for you. That's your job. That's your responsibility. That's your power. When you stop tolerating excuses, you start attracting results. When you stop permitting inconsistency, you start commanding excellence. Don't just raise your standards emotionally, raise them habitually. Stop having mountaintop motivation and valley behavior. Let your habits match your hope. Make a decision that from this moment forward, you will demand more from your character. You will demand more from your conversations. No more small talk with small minds who belittle big visions. You will demand more from your commitments. No more breaking promises to yourself or showing up late to your own destiny. When you begin to enforce the standard, heaven begins to endorse your steps. You'll find favor where you once found frustration. You'll gain traction where you used to feel tired. Why? Because the universe responds to enforcement. God honors what you take seriously. And the moment you refuse to settle for less is the moment you unlock more. So don't just want it, enforce it. Because transformation doesn't follow wishes, it follows standards that are guarded, lived, and fiercely protected. Low standards are not just a reflection of poor choices, they are a sign that you have forgotten who you truly are. When you don't know your identity, when you don't recognize your worth, you will settle for things that are beneath your potential. You will tolerate what is less than what you were created to experience, and in doing so, you devalue the very essence of your being. This is the danger of living beneath your identity. It causes you to accept mediocrity as your reality. You were never meant to chase after approval. The world will try to tell you that you need to fit into its mold, to conform to its standards of success, to seek validation in all the wrong places. But that's not your calling. Approval seeking keeps you trapped in a cycle of external validation, always looking for someone or something to tell you that you are enough. But your worth was never meant to be defined by the opinions of others. Your worth was already established when you were created in the image and likeness of God. That is the foundation of your identity. The truth is, the moment you forget who you are, you begin to chase after empty things. Things that will never fulfill you or make you feel whole. You were not created to settle for dysfunction either. Dysfunction breeds confusion, chaos, and instability. Yet many of us live in situations, relationships, careers, environments that perpetuate dysfunction because we haven't recognized that we are worth more than the brokenness around us. We lower our standards because we don't see ourselves as valuable enough to walk away from unhealthy dynamics. We cling to the familiar, even if it's toxic, because we've forgotten that we are meant to live in peace, joy, and wholeness. The minute you begin to remember your true identity, you'll stop accepting dysfunction as normal. you will demand a higher level of order in your life because you know you are designed for peace, not turmoil. You were never meant to live paycheck to paycheck either. Financial stress, living in scarcity, and always scraping by are signs of a mindset that has forgotten its true inheritance. You were created to thrive, to have dominion, to live in abundance. God didn't create you to live in lack. He created you to live as a steward of wealth, not just financially, but spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Your inheritance is not limited to what you can see in the natural world. It is an inheritance that is rooted in the promises of God. And when you remember who you are, you stop settling for the struggle. You rise above the limitations of your circumstances because you understand that your true identity doesn't align with scarcity. It aligns with abundance and overflow. It is essential to understand that low standards betray the high calling of your identity. Every time you settle for less than what you deserve, you dishonor your true potential. When you know who you are, when you remember the power, purpose, and authority embedded in your being, you begin to demand more from yourself and from life. You will no longer tolerate mediocrity in any area of your life because you know that you were born for greatness. You are royalty. You are meant to reign, not survive. You were created in the image of dominion. This is not just a lofty idea, it is the reality of who you are. When you rise up and claim your identity, you begin to walk in the fullness of your purpose, and everything in your life will begin to align with the greatness that was always within you. Remember who you are, and you will no longer live in survival mode. You will begin to live in purpose, power, and the divine inheritance that is your birthright. When you decide to raise your standards, it's important to understand that growth and elevation will often require you to let go of some things, most notably, relationships that no longer serve your purpose. The higher you go, the fewer people can handle the weight of your progress. And let me tell you, that's not a loss, it's a gain. We often think that elevation is all about gaining more people, more connections, more recognition. But true elevation starts with separation. God will often remove what's not aligned with your destiny before He adds what's meant for your purpose. You see, not everyone who's in your life today is meant to be there in your tomorrow. And that's okay. As your standards rise, the people who once occupied your space may no longer fit. This can be a hard pill to swallow, especially if these relationships were long-standing or if they brought comfort in the past. But there comes a point when you must realize that not everyone can walk with you to your next level. People who operate at a lower standard will try to keep you at their level. They'll want you to settle, to dim your light, to stop pushing, because they cannot understand your desire for more. They cannot comprehend your hunger for greatness. And that's okay. It's not a personal rejection. It's a reflection of their own limitations. God is preparing you for a life of influence and impact. And in order to carry that kind of weight, your circle needs to be made of individuals who are aligned with your vision, your purpose, and your faith. When you elevate your standards, you are inviting a new quality of people into your life. People who challenge you, inspire you, and demand the best from you. They are not intimidated by your progress. Instead, they celebrate it and push you further. These are the people who will sharpen you, encourage you, and stand with you in the high places. But before you can bring those people into your life, God has to remove what's holding you back. Sometimes that means removing friendships that are toxic, relationships that are draining, or environments that are limiting. It may feel lonely at first, but trust me, what God is doing is necessary. Just as a tree must be pruned to bear more fruit, your life must be pruned to carry the greater weight of your purpose. He is making room for the right connections, the right opportunities, and the right alignment with your destiny. The good news is when God begins to prune, He doesn't leave you in isolation. He's not just cutting away the unnecessary, He's preparing you for divine connections that will lift you higher. As the wrong people fade away, the right people will step in. People who have the capacity to see you, support you, and push you to new heights. The right people don't compete with you, they complete you. They don't hold you back, they propel you forward. So when you experience separation, don't mourn it. Don't try to chase after what God has removed. Celebrate the space that is now created for the new, the better, and the divine connections that are on their way. You don't need more people. You need the right people. God is aligning your life with those who will help you carry the weight of the destiny He has for you. Keep your eyes focused on the future and trust that as you elevate your standards, you will be surrounded by the people who are destined to go higher with you. It's one thing to raise your standards within. It's another thing entirely to ensure that your environment reflects those elevated standards. Far too often we expect our lives to change while staying in the same places, surrounded by the same people and engaging in the same habits that keep us anchored to mediocrity. But the truth is this: your environment is an extension of your mindset. It speaks to what you truly value and what you are willing to accept. You cannot live in contradiction to your values and expect success. If you want to rise, your environment must rise with you. Imagine you are an eagle born to soar at the highest altitudes. Eagles don't soar in the valleys, they rise above them. They don't nest in places where predators lurk or where the winds are heavy with danger. They find the highest peaks where they can glide freely and see clearly. Likewise, if you want to elevate your life, you cannot surround yourself with people and situations that limit your potential. You cannot allow toxic, negative, or stagnant environments to dictate your direction. It is essential that you create a space, both physically and mentally, that aligns with your new, higher standards. This might mean distancing yourself from certain friendships, leaving behind environments that drain you, or removing yourself from situations that don't reflect the greatness inside of you. It might require you to change where you live, what you do in your spare time, and even who you associate with. But hear this clearly: the people you spend your time with, the places you allow yourself to be, and the routines you follow all shape the person you are becoming. You cannot stay in the same place and expect different results. Build an environment that is a reflection of your potential. Surround yourself with people who inspire you to be better, challenge you to grow, and remind you of your purpose. Stop spending time with those who drain your energy or pull you back into the old ways of thinking. You don't need to explain your growth to anyone. Your elevation will speak for itself. Set the tone of your environment. Excellence isn't something that just happens, it is cultivated. It is a mindset, a decision, and a practice. Make your environment one of excellence. Let your space be a reflection of your standards. Your home should be a sanctuary. Your workspace should inspire creativity and productivity, and your relationships should be purposeful. Excellence should echo through every aspect of your life, from the smallest interactions to the grandest projects you undertake. This applies to your daily habits as well. You cannot talk about wanting success, discipline, or peace if your habits contradict that vision. If your standard is excellence, then let excellence guide your schedule. When you value your time, you value your life. Don't waste time on distractions. Fill your day with actions that align with your purpose. When you wake up, be intentional about what you will do. Let every moment, every decision, and every action reflect your elevated standard. Ultimately, your standard must become your culture. It should define your atmosphere, your relationships, and your actions. When your standard is clear and your environment matches it, you create a synergy that propels you forward. Your growth becomes inevitable because everything around you supports it. You are no longer fighting against the current, Instead, you are flowing with the tide of your purpose. The energy you give out matches the energy you receive, and success becomes a natural outcome. It's time to stop living below your potential. Elevate your surroundings, elevate your environment, and watch your life follow suit. When you raise your standard, you are sending a message to the heavens. You are no longer willing to live beneath your potential. You are no longer willing to compromise on your destiny, your purpose, or your calling. There is a divine law that operates in the kingdom of God, the law of alignment. When your life aligns with the standards that God has set for you, His power flows effortlessly into your life. But when you choose to compromise, when you lower your standard to accommodate mediocrity or the desires of the world, you close the door to divine partnership. God is a God of excellence. His very nature is perfect, pure, and unchanging. He does not compromise His character to meet you where you are. Instead, He elevates you to meet His standard. This is why raising your standard is not just about wanting more. It's about aligning yourself with the nature of God. When you refuse to compromise, you create a vessel through which God's favor, blessings, and wisdom can pour into your life. He will not partner with low expectations, but He will empower those who are willing to rise to the heights He has called them to. The moment you decide to raise your standard, you begin to attract what reflects that higher level. The people in your life will shift. The opportunities you encounter will become more aligned with your purpose. The clarity you've been seeking will emerge as your focus sharpens and your vision becomes clearer. God will open doors for you that you never thought possible because you positioned yourself for elevation. You will no longer operate under the constraints of your old mindset or your old environment. When your standard rises, your circumstances will follow suit. This is not a promise of perfection, it's a promise of divine alignment. When you elevate your standards, you align yourself with the best version of yourself. You become a steward of your destiny, refusing to settle for anything less than the fullness of what God has for you. You begin to see your life as a sacred trust, where everything you do reflects His glory. This is why compromise has no place in your life. It robs you of your potential and ties you to a life that is less than what God has ordained for you. Imagine the clarity that comes with living without compromise. You no longer wrestle with indecision because you've drawn the line. You know what you stand for, and you know what you won't tolerate. You are not swayed by the opinions of others or the pressures of the world. Your convictions are strong and your purpose is clear. You are living with the certainty that God is honoring your refusal to compromise. As you move forward in this new standard, you begin to see His hand at work in your life in ways you never imagined. This elevation is not about personal achievement. It's about divine partnership. When you refuse to compromise, you invite God into every area of your life. Your relationships, your career, your health, your finances. Everything begins to reflect His glory and His favor. You will find that you are more equipped, more empowered, and more aligned with your true purpose than you ever thought possible. The shift happens the moment your standards shift. You open up space for God to do what only He can do in your life. So make the decision today. Raise your standards, refuse to compromise, and watch as your life transforms. Heaven honors what you refuse to compromise because it sees your heart, your commitment, and your willingness to align with God's best for you. When you elevate your standards, you are saying, I trust you, God, to lead me to the life you've always had in mind for me. And when you do that, everything in your life begins to shift toward the greatness He has prepared for you. You've prayed for a new season. You've cried for a breakthrough. But hear me, God is waiting for you to raise the bar. Stop adjusting to the world and start ascending to your calling. Your future is not a fantasy, it's a decision. When you change your standards, you change your life. Not someday, not eventually, but right now. So make the shift. Demand more, expect better, live higher. Because you were never created to settle, you were created to reign.